You're going to just be too late if you don't start using AI in just your day-to-day jobs.
I think adaptable is the key thing.
Yep.
Because a lot of people don't even think of AI as a real thing. I speak to people like, well, so what do you think about AI? Oh, 10 years, now it's not a real thing. It is. And if you aren't adaptable, you will lose. You shouldn't be scared of AI. You should be scared of the person who knows how to use it, because that's the main thing. But which AIs do you use? Do you use it in your job search?
Now, how would you say someone, for example, a new graduate or a current job seeker, they should be using AI for, and what they shouldn't be using it for?
CV and job specs, that's a lazy way of using AI. Don't do that. You could try it, it's just not going to work. You might get past like one screening and you get a screening call and the company realizes you've used AI-based CV. So don't do that. So it's prompt engineering, how to think about the questions that you ask. If you've got better questions to ask, you've got better results. And if you've got better results, you can actually use something real. But if you're not asking the right questions, then what are you doing? And it's just, you're seeing this AI thing like it won't actually help you. Whether you're looking for a job, whether you're even trying to get better at your job at the moment. You might be in a position right now where you're an SDR or a BDM, and you want to pitch better. You might ask this AI, okay, this is what I do for a living. These are my KPIs, my targets. How do I get better? You'll be surprised at what ChatGPT can tell you. And it'll be super logical, and you might not have thought about it.
But my fear, as someone who pitches to clients quite a lot, would it make me sound like a robot if I'm taking things from AI and using that to make my own pitch?
And if you go lazy, you will sound like a robot. But if you approach AI in a way where, again, it goes back to the prompts.
Can they use it for networking at all?
Yeah, to a degree. I mean, if you have, let's say, you want to capture the attention of a CEO, you can use AI to say, right, okay, now you've got a good start to a message. So that's the guideline to begin. Now you have to obviously get a little bit more creative.
What jobs do you think are at threat with the AI models getting better and the inception of AI?
Human that's going to buy a service will probably not want you to be an AI. So I think people who are in that space, relationship building, stakeholder communication, I think they're safe for a long time. The best way for you to think about it is, okay, ask ChatGPT, how would you do my job? This is what I do for a living right now. How would you do it at half the speed? And if you're surprised by that result, I hate to kind of break it to you, your job's gone very soon, because you'll find yourself in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, figuring out, oh, my employer is using a software instead of hiring me. Vaibhav, we're back for another one. We're going to talk about, what should we talk about today? I think AI jobs. AI, not AI jobs, but how to get jobs using AI, and is that actually
and
ethical?
how AI is going to affect other people's job, like how it's going to affect the job market actually. How people should start embracing it instead of running away from it. And you're going to just be too late if you don't start using AI in just your day-to-day jobs. I know a lot of companies have very strict policies of using AI within their infrastructure. For example, some companies do not, they restrict copying and pasting within ChatGPT or AI and so on and so forth. But I think it would be very interesting to know what industries can, I'm pretty sure you'll have way more knowledge on this than I do, how and what industries can use AI and what sort of direction you see them going in, and how, as an employee and someone who wants to progress in their career, they can use AI to their advantage and make sure that they stay adaptable, they stay relevant, and succeed at their job.
I think adaptable is the key thing.
Yep.
Because a lot of people don't even think of AI as a real thing. I speak to people like, well, so what do you think about AI? Oh, 10 years, now it's not a real thing. It is. And if you aren't adaptable, you will lose. You shouldn't be scared of AI. You should be scared of the person who knows how to use it, because that's the main thing. Now, if you know how to use AI, not only will you get a job faster, you'll do your job better. It's as simple as that. But which AIs do you use? How do you think about it? Do you use it in your job search? Do you just use ChatGPT and you prompt it by saying, hey, I've got a CV, could you make it better? That's not really an effective way to use it, and a lot of people do. Or another thing that people do, which is they look at their CV, they look at a job spec, and then they copy and paste the job spec and the CV, and they put it into ChatGPT, and they say, right, match my CV to look good for this job, so they get an interview. That doesn't always work. So that's just not going to be a thing. But knowing how to use AI, that's what I think people need to really pay attention to.
Thank you so much for bringing that up, actually. Now, how would you say someone, for example, a new graduate or a current job seeker, is they should be using AI for, and what they shouldn't be using it for? If you could, differentiate that for me and for our audience, that we
Sure. Yeah,
awesome.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you like the point I've just said, which is CV and job specs, that's a lazy way of using AI. Don't do that. You could try it. It's just not going to work. You might get past like one screening and you get a screening call and the company realizes you've used an AI-based CV. So don't do that. But understanding what companies look for when it comes to a specific sector. So if you're interested in finance and you have a CV, rather than asking the AI to make your CV better, you can put your CV into AI, ChatGPT, and you can say, what do you think as a skill set that I have that I can talk about with a decision maker in these companies? ChatGPT will give you an answer. It won't give you a CV, but it will say, judging by your CV, you have this skill, and this skill, which will be highly sought after by finance roles. And you can have a conversation with AI to then say, great, what roles do you recommend that I look at? And it will start to paint a picture of type of opportunities and positions. Now you have to prompt engineer it. So if you're not, thinking about this outside of the box, which is like, okay, I just want to get a better job. That's too basic. Okay, I want to find out how I can present myself better for the jobs that I want to do. And then I want to understand how I can do them better. That's where you're going to win. So it's prompt engineering, how to think about the questions that you ask. If you've got better questions to ask, you've got better results. And if you've got better results, you can actually use something real.
Funny enough you say that, because I almost look at it as a way of looking in the mirror, but in a different way. It's almost like when you were saying that, the only, what was coming in my head was, I don't know if you've seen the first Harry Potter. And Harry goes into the basement and there's a mirror where he sees everything that he can't ever have. But it's like this mirror is everything you already have, and you can use to your advantage to get into companies that you want. You just have to work with it. It's knowing more about yourself from a different light, is what I understand. Am I right?
I think so, 100%. Because I think the way you've broken it down is kind of think of someone who's so much smarter than you, or that mirror who can show you all this information.
Your potential.
Exactly. 100%.
Yeah.
But if you're not asking the right questions, then what are you doing? And it's just, you're seeing this AI thing like it won't actually help you. But then you've got so many different programs in AI, ChatGPT being the main one. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of different programs that you can use where companies are using the large language model that OpenAI has to build different sequences of programs to help, whether it's how to present yourself, have a better CV, or all these different things. But if you know what to ask, then you actually have, like using the analogy of the mirror in Harry Potter, you know what the potential is. And if you know what the potential is, then you've got a plan, you've got a track that you can follow, which is super important.
And that gives you so many more different routes to go to and things that you might have not even thought of. And they just come up and it's like, okay, so according to ChatGPT, what skills I already have, I can use them to get into this role or in this company. Let me go further. Let me see if there's a skill gap. Let me see if how big is the skill gap. Can I cover it some way, and can I present it in a way of a strength instead of a weakness if there's a company that I really want to go for. So funny enough, you bring that up. So I am not as versed with AI as you are. Guys, if you don't know, Milo knows his way around with AI. It's like,
I try my best. I like using it because I think it's the future. It's jobs will be different.
Exactly. And he's forced me to use it as much as I can. And I'm using it more in my workflow to understand, okay, what are the things that I can, make easier, things that will take less time and are better sounding, better visually. And I've seen a lot of people also use them for presentation these days, and which is completely awesome. But for someone who's just starting out, and who is very new to the AI world, like most of the audience might be, what do you think is the right starting point? And what are the next stepping stones they should be going for, and how they can use that starting point to their advantage?
Good question. So the phrase I kind of heard someone say, if it's for free, it's for me. And I think ChatGPT, the free version, you can use. And just use it until it limits you to the extent of what you want from it. So if you have ChatGPT right now, which everyone technically does, start asking questions. Have that genuine curiosity that you can think, okay, this thing is going to be really real in 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. My job that I'm doing today is going to be affected by this program that I'm starting to use now. So get to use it. If you spend 5 minutes a day using ChatGPT, by the end of the week, you will have a better understanding of it and you'll have a better curiosity for it. So I think curiosity is the biggest thing. So right now, if you're watching this and you're thinking, which most of you that I speak to, job seekers that are thinking of using AI in their job search, you might have used it for just CVs and copying and pasting. Start asking questions. What jobs should I look for? How could I present myself better judging by the CV? What company culture fits do I need to really think about seriously? And if that's the case, you have something to think about and that curiosity will grow. And then you have a framework to work with. And then you start understanding what are your weaknesses. And from your weaknesses, you start asking better questions because you want to turn those weaknesses into strengths. Those strengths will then turn into opportunities. Those opportunities will turn into whatever it is, whether you're looking for a job, whether you're even trying to get better at your job at the moment. You might be in a position right now where you're an SDR or a BDM, and you want to pitch better. You might ask this AI, okay, this is what I do for a living. These are my KPIs, my targets. How do I get better? You'll be surprised at what ChatGPT can tell you. And it'll be super logical, and you might not have thought about it.
But I get that and pitching, but my fear as someone who pitches to clients quite a lot, would it make me sound like a robot if I'm taking things from AI and using that to make my own pitch? Do I completely run with what ChatGPT has told me? Or do I take that as a reference point, personalize it my way, add my twist to it, and then run with it?
Good question. And I think a lot of lazy people will fall into that exact trap.
And that's what I want them to avoid. Because it's so... I mean, ChatGPT is going to make a lot of people's life easier. And it will also make a lot of people's life harder if you don't use it the right way.
100%.
There's going to be people who are just going to try to get all their work done through that, make presentation, make client pitches, and run with that in actual client meetings. But I think the biggest fear for me is, at the end of the day, it's AI. And it's recycling information. And there's a good chance of you signing like the other person, or how do you add your own personal touch to it? How do you not sound like a robot whilst making that pitch that you just took from AI? That's my question.
That's a good question. And if you go lazy, you will sound like a robot. But if you approach AI in a way where, again, it goes back to the prompts. So if you're creating a presentation, a lazy way is, I want you to create a presentation about this subject, go. And then you accept it. That would be a robot way. A question you could ask if you don't know how to do a presentation is, hey, explain to me how to create a really good presentation in 16 points. It'll give you 16 points. You figure out and read all of those points and see which resonate with you. Then you can say, out of these 16 points, how could I bring this down to 4 points to start building my presentation? It'll give you 4 points. And then you start working on each of those 4 points until you have something that looks like a genuine presentation. Then you can start actually putting the work in. So this is a starting point. It's not an end point. People think that it's an end point at this moment. It will be in the future. But if you start with having like a guideline of what to start doing, then you can put your real effort into it. It's not going to be enough to say, okay, just do this and that's it. And
yeah, we're not there yet.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad you brought that up, that we have to start looking as a starting point instead of an end point, because I know a lot of people who think of, oh yeah, AI, let me just get it done via that. No, and you brought it home by saying that, okay, it's going to give you a list, it's going to give you options, then it's your job to go and dwell deeper into that option and what resonates to you, what resonates to whoever you're presenting to, what do you want to focus on. And let's bring it home in terms of someone who's looking for a job, someone who wants to, as we discussed, how can they use that can they use it for networking at all?
Yeah, to a degree. I mean, if you have, let's say, you want to capture the attention of a CEO, you can use AI to say, right, what's the attention span of a CEO when he reads a message? 0.47 seconds. Okay. What subject should I talk to about a CEO in finance?
Shareholder value.
That an AI would probably give you that, right? Okay, shareholder value. How do I then put shareholder value in my job search process when I'm trying to get into a position? AI will tell you, okay, we'll talk about maybe Q4 or Q1 2025 and how a particular department could build into increasing that shareholder value. Okay, now you've got a good start to a message. So that's the guideline to begin. Now you have to obviously get a little bit more creative.
OpenAI, if you're watching, we have our own version of ChatGPT right here. But now that the way you explained it, it's blew my mind.
And,
man.
and we're
Yeah.
working on it actually within How to Job with our data analysts, with our research analysts. So the Job Search Power Pack, we have actual humans who use AI properly with information that people give us to create a really detailed version of how it should be done. Because it's not as simple as just one prompt. For when I use prompts, I spend 1 hour on a prompt, writing it out. Then I use it, then I test it. And I might use one prompt for 4 hours in total until I get my detailed version of what I want as an output. This could be for a LinkedIn message. This could be for a LinkedIn post. And obviously I post quite a lot on LinkedIn. So I put my posts through AI quite a lot, but I don't have a final point. I might spend half an hour, 45 minutes just writing something out without AI. Then I put it into AI and say, right, is this good for the audience that I want? Okay, yes, no. How could I improve it? What are the main points that I need to focus on? If someone's looking at this from a perspective that needs help in their job search, what are the points that they would like to learn about? What's the value add? Okay, perfect. That's already an hour worth of work. But that's not a lazy approach. That's the real work
That's a
approach
detailed
at this
approach.
moment.
Yep.
But the lazy approach of sounding like a robot is someone doing all of that saying, create a good post about this. Okay, this looks great. Add some emojis. Nice, which most people do on LinkedIn. You'll notice all those LinkedIn emoji posts that people have, and they just sound so basic. And then they just post them. And then everyone else has an annoyance to, okay, well, why are you using this? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that actually, makes me, because everyone started, using like LinkedIn posts. I don't know if you guys spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, but I definitely saw, because I've been on LinkedIn for a while, and there came a time where everyone would post once a week and it would be good, personalized information. Then all of a sudden, everyone's posting every single day,
Yeah.
and these long ass paragraphs, and they're good, they're detailed, there's information in that. But I'm like, how do they came up with like 7 days worth of content every single day? Like, how does that make? Now it makes sense.
Yeah,
yeah.
But they're not that great if you think about it in
Yeah.
terms of how much work they put in, because it's super basic. And I think rather than hoping that it's going to create your homework or do an essay or an amazing email, it's a guideline, and then you have to put your own humanity into it, because it is still a machine. But if you combine those two things, you've got a winning formula, at least at this stage. That might change in the future.
I missed ChatGPT versus when I had to do my dissertation by like a year. If they would have coincided,
Yeah.
oh man, my life would have just gotten so much
Yeah.
better. It's not that I don't like doing my dissertation, but it did become intense at a point, and I would have loved using it to that. But now, because people are using ChatGPT and AI to write their dissertations, the software that catches them plagiarizing it also has AI, so you can't really run away from that. It was a small window of people who were able to use that, and by the time the tool that catches plagiarism, that didn't have AI, so I think it was like 3-4 months where people could actually
You could
fly
cheat your
away.
way
Oh,
through
yeah.
pretty much everything at that stage.
Imagine someone doing a PhD and they do their entire
That's probably happened. There's someone out there right now that's sweating, thinking, "Wow, I used a machine that didn't even catch me."
Well, thank God I'm not that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Imagine that.
But
also, what's the interesting thing is, like, how is the job market going to change with AI? So I think fast forward, and I'm going to just like logically spitball this in terms of how I'm thinking about it. Everybody's going to use AI to get better CVs. Everybody's CV is going to look the same. Companies are going to be even more frustrated. So, the usual like ATS systems where people apply and there's all these things happening and they don't know who to select. Then they're going to think, okay, well, that person probably used AI. That person did. Oh, everybody did. Everybody looks the same. We want to get to know people for who they really are. And I think having a genuine LinkedIn profile is going to be a lot more valuable than it is today.
Funny enough, you bring that up. So how would you differentiate someone who is using AI to get their CV better and get their LinkedIn better versus the job search power pack that you just talked about? If you could differentiate between that'd be great.
Yeah, sure, 100%. So the CV is just, again, the lazy approach. I can read a CV, I know it's done by AI. Job search power pack, it's 100 pages. We ask you 100 questions. Those 100 questions, you will then see, okay, these guys are asking me things that I didn't think about. So that prompt engineering, where someone's spending 4 hours engineering prompts to actually find out more and then having that human element, that's going to be the difference. So think about not just having a better CV, a cover letter, a LinkedIn, but knowing which companies to reach out to, who to speak to, what to say to them. And if you've got that, you've got your foot in the door. Your foot in the door is just technically what a CV would do and what your technical knowledge would be of where to apply to. Then you have to have the humanity to be able to sell yourself and have all of these things, which in the Job Search Power Pack, there's an elevator pitch. So if I ask a lot of job seekers right now, and I spoke to about 5 people last week, and you guys, I told you to watch it, and I'm going to speak about you. Again, we don't share names on this podcast, but I asked them, elevator pitches. Do you have one? What's that? Okay. 30 seconds. Can you sell yourself? For what? If someone asks you, why should we hire you? What do you say? Well, I talk about my experience and my CV that you don't have. That's going to be tough, right? So having an elevator pitch is basically being able to sell yourself for 30 seconds if an employer asks you, hey, why should we hire you? And if you don't have that, you're screwed.
So interesting you bring that up. I think people, especially who are looking for a job, they should have an elevator pitch for themselves. But people in general in life who love networking, who love, connecting with new people, connecting with important people. I think I was reading it somewhere. If you're in a networking event or something like that, and you have if someone asks you, oh, so who are you and what do you do? That elevator pitch, there's a clear difference between people who are ready, who want something, who are going to get it. They might not get it in the first try. They might get it in the 5th, in the 10th. But once you hear that elevator pitch, people remember you. People are like, oh, that guy knows his stuff. Like, wow, that was a lot of information for 30, 45 seconds. And this guy just left me with, let's ask more what he's about. What is he doing? Well, if there's any way we can help him, or if there's someone we can connect him with. So I'm glad you brought elevator pitch up, because I think it's a very, we see elevator pitch as like, oh, we got to go to Dragon's Den or Shark Tank and prepare for that. It's not that. I think every single day we're selling ourselves to, to someone, to a company, and having the best version of ourselves, concise in 45 seconds, and just throwing it away and being so prepared that people are left with like, whoa, are overloaded with information. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Having that 30-second pitch is not just about getting the job. It's also just having the confidence in your ability to be able to do the job. So if you don't have an elevator pitch and you get into an interview and they say, okay, why should we hire you? There's 5 other people in the other room. Why do you get the job? If you don't know what to say, you're not getting the job. Simple as that.
And in any interview, there's always a version of that question. Like, it might not sound just like that, but it must be like, okay, so what do you think makes you a suitable candidate for this position? Explain it to us. Yeah.
Elevator pitch is required. But also you said something really interesting, which is sales. Sales is everywhere. You have to sell yourself on why you want to do the job. You have to sell, your family specifically on why you would be a good fit for a company that they might be telling you, hey, why don't you look at this other industry instead? Especially if you're a graduate in these days, because you might be looking at data analytics and your parents might be telling you, don't go down data analytics, the world's changing. Do the other thing, sociology, that you were studying in university, or do something completely different. You need to sell them on the fact that you're going to be the right fit. You need to sell yourself on the fact that you have the right fit of companies that you want to work for.
And you have to sell yourself if you want to progress in your career within the same company. You have to sell to your managers again that, oh, you will be right person for the position that you want to go for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It never stops. It stops almost when you retire, maybe, but
even then, you're probably selling yourself on staying in the job or wanting to retire. By that time, they'll probably increase the retirement age, so you won't be able to. But that's another story. That's another podcast that we need to cover. But being able to sell yourself works more for so many other areas that people don't actually think about at all. When you're in the job, you have a probation meeting 3 months into the job. That's your opportunity to sell for you to get a higher salary, to get a title change. 12 months into the role, you have the ability to sell if you get another bump in salary or a title change. And you get to sell yourself on actually joining another company if you're headhunted. So a lot of people are headhunted in positions 12 months in. They don't think about selling themselves for that. They might get an extra 10K on their salary. And that's another thing to think about.
Funny enough, you brought that up. I wanted to ask you, people who get headhunted, how, for example, if a recruiter reached out to a candidate and that candidate maybe applied for a job, a promotion internally, which they didn't get, can they use that that recruiters opportunity to get what they wanted within the company that they're in, or how can someone use it as their own, take advantage of that basically?
Sure. So in terms of getting just a better position at the
With
start
it.
of their career,
Maybe 3-4 years in within the same company,
so to just keep increasing the
Yep.
title and the
Yep.
salary and everything
within
else.
the company they want.
So
Yeah.
you have to, it's a great question, but you have to look at it from a macro perspective, right? 10 years ago, you would stay in a company for 5 years and then you would join another company. And your company would probably anticipate that and they would have a meeting with you and they'll say, hey, it's been 5 years. We want to increase the salary. We want to make sure you're happy. We want to make sure that you want to stay here. So we're going to give you this, 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 and this to tie you down into the role. That's what they used to do 10 years ago. Right now, they expect you to leave after 2 years. If anything, they're probably expecting you and they won't even stop you until you prompt them that you want to stay. So you should always have a plan in your mind where it's like, okay, a year into this role, I'm going to have a pitch and I'm going to say, right, I either love this company for these reasons, which is culture, the mission, the team. It's exactly the same as how you sold it to me in the interview process when you offered me the job, but I want to stay and I want to have better responsibilities. Now, with me getting those better responsibilities, I want non-salary benefits. I need extra education. I want a higher salary. I want a title change. So you should be thinking about doing that every year rather than I'm going to wait until they bring it up, because they won't in most cases. So you think about it every year, and then every 2 years, you get a big bump in where you should be. But again, this is now information. In 5 years' time, my answer might be very different. There might be like mini contracts in 5 years where your job will only last 6 months until it changes completely due to AI or technological advancements. And then you think, I need to find a new company. I need to job search even more. Well, if that's the case, you can always come to
Or
this
maybe
podcast.
we're not even on Earth. We're working on Mars thanks to
Probably
Elon
will.
Musk.
Yeah,
That'd be
exactly.
cool.
Those cyber cabs, by the way, they just,
Oh man, that was.
I'm getting one of
sick.
those. If we get 100,000 views on this podcast, I'm going to put a pre-order. I don't think we will, but wishful
Please,
thinking.
oh man, I'll clip this, post it everywhere,
Yeah.
and then you'll be bullied to buying into it. Yeah,
I definitely will. The moment it is available,
Yeah.
that is 100%.
pre-order. What's the cost on that?
I think it's like $30,000.
The cap. Oh,
cap.
is it the driver the without?
Driverless.
Oh yeah.
I could just imagine.
I thought you were talking about the bus, the 20-seater.
I didn't even see the bus.
There's a 20-seater bus, which
Really?
just I think, but
Wow.
it's for. They might just use it for public transport. I
Hmm.
haven't seen the entire event in detail. I just saw all the products that were unveiled. But man, that mine and the
Insane.
ability to do anything he wants.
Hmm.
I think that's the freedom that people look for, and that's the and missing that freedom is what make people question whether about their mortality and if they're doing something wrong with their life or right with their life. But bringing it back to AI and to where we were, how can someone who's already in a job, wants to progress in their job, use AI to their advantage? Yeah, with
Interesting. So it depends on the person. So if you find yourself in a position right now where you're happy in your job and you want to stay, but you want to get better at your job, you can ask AI, how do I get better at my job? And then you can see what AI says and you can start actually doing it. So you could prompt engineer it where you can say, hi, my name's John. I've been in this company for 3 years. I'm happy, but I want to get better. And these are my responsibilities. This is my 2-year plan. What would you do if you were in my position? AI will give you an entire list of things to do, which I think people expect it to, right? But then following through with it, you might actually, having the prompt engineering to say, okay, give me actionable steps today over the next 7 days to improve the position that I'm in. It will give you that. It's up to you to follow
it's
it.
the action that's the hard part, man.
Yeah.
It's the hard part for everyone.
Yeah.
But funny enough, you bring that up because and what do you think about the companies who don't allow their employees to use AI for their work at the moment? Do you think that's going to change going ahead in the future? Do you think those companies who are not using AI at the moment, are they going to be left behind? What's your thoughts?
So there's 2 reasons I think companies are not allowing that to happen. Number one, privacy, because I think companies know that OpenAI is probably looking at everything they're doing to retrain their models. So that's the first thing. Companies are really like, okay, so if you're a law firm and you're dealing with ultra high net worth clients and you're using ChatGPT with private information of clients, I get it. That makes sense. But if another law firm then has the information that they don't put in that's private, but they use it in a controlled field, but then they end up doing, an admission paper 13 times faster than their competitors and they can just ring fence how they use AI, they're going to win. But then again, it goes back down to branding. Depends on the industry, depends on the company, depends on how they ring fence how they use AI. So ring fencing it meaning we're not going to allow it to go into all the private data that we don't want to share with OpenAI, but we're going to certainly use it to see how we can build it into our existing business.
And with Microsoft coming in, do you think a lot of these companies are going to build their own models so that they can use it in-house and that information is not shared externally, stays within, and they maximize the use of AI?
Yeah, I think that could be, the way that I would look at it as a business owner is to say, okay, if I want my services to be better than they are, I would want a system that I would control to do the job itself faster than the competitors, but I would also want it to be something that we own that isn't openly used outside like ChatGPT. So it'd be a ChatGPT trained version of how to job does things in our own way. That helps us do things faster. That's how I would think about it. So it would be like a version of AI just with our brain.
Makes sense. I think Microsoft Copilot, that is in direct competition with ChatGPT, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, but then they own portions of ChatGPT, OpenAI.
Oh my God. Yeah,
so it's like they're in competition
all
with
becoming
each
so
other.
intertwined now.
Yeah.
Apple has brought ChatGPT in iOS as well.
Yeah.
It's just like almost like on a high level, like they're all part of the same ecosystem, I want to say, but they're not.
I think it's like just a race against time to see who's going to have the dominant AI.
And when you say that, define dominant AI.
It could be something that, right now, ChatGPT is a dominant AI because it's like everybody uses it. Everybody expects it to spit out specific information if they use it properly in the way that they should be using it. If they don't use it properly, then they're not even thinking about how the AI race is going. So having a dominant AI itself is one that everybody's going to use that has its own large language model brain that everybody feeds into. So if a company has their own version of an AI, they would feed into that OpenAI brain, which is the LLM, the large language model, and they would derive their own style of how they would use it within the confines of their own sort of company. So if a law firm onboards new clients by asking 17 questions, rather than having a human being email that, they would have an AI that picks up that information, puts it in, and then they would onboard new policies depending on that client. That's something that would make sense because you're replacing a human doing it.
Yeah, I think the inception of AI is very cool and it's going to make a lot of lives easier. But I think we do need we need a sand in the line. We need restrictions that, it does not get used beyond this. It only gets used for this. And those terms and conditions, which are very small printed, I think those need to be looked at very carefully. And people need to understand when they're signing up for anything, how their data is being used, because data is the new currency. All their data, whatever they do, is being sold. Models are being run on that data, and they're making better decisions on it and trying to sell you more stuff and trying to help you make better decisions. Whether it was I don't want to say 2016 elections in the US, because there was that firm out of Boston, I think that took a lot of flack for that. And I studied this entire research on how they went after. So whenever there's a general election going on, these portion of people are going to vote for this person. These portion of people are going to vote for this person. It's the people who are undecided. That's the target. And how do we influence them towards voting for a particular candidate? And no one talks about that right now, but it became all the news, I think, back in 2019, 2020.
Yep. Yeah.
When AI came to light. And it just, I'm very enthusiastic about AI, but it also brings in these, I like to be careful with things.
Yeah, of course.
And I don't want, if I use something and if I put any sort of information out there and it's being used against me, I'm afraid of putting my email. I'm getting spam. I got the Prince of Ghana emailing me for 2 billion euros, and I'm that's because what scares me is this person has my email. I know if I don't respond to it, nothing happens, but it's out there. Someone sold it to him. He's trying to use it against me.
Mhm.
And what if someday something comes in and I'm unable to spot it? Something is so flawless, something is so meticulously designed by AI. And I've seen people using AI controlled voice models
Yeah,
to
I saw
sound so. That is scary, man.
Super scary. Super scary. Like there was this lady who got a call from her daughter saying, "Hey, I've been kidnapped and sent to this person."
And she was
5,000.
upstairs in her room.
I saw that. Yeah, insane, insane. So that's what's to come. And you're absolutely right about being careful with it. You have to, but also you have to keep an eye on it because, let's say, crypto, for example. I didn't get in on cryptos.
Oh, you didn't?
A lot of my friends did. Some of them lost everything. There's one in particular who made a lot of money. And I asked him, okay, so what was the way to make sure you didn't lose everything? Just keep your eye on it. Just studying it a little bit every day, 5 minutes here and there, read a headline or two. Just start developing that natural curiosity, and then you'll start to naturally learn about it. That's all it takes. So it's about being consciously competent to realize there is something here that's going to change the way we all live. It could be a dystopian nightmare, or it could be the best time on planet Earth. And that's a real thing. So those are the two scenarios that AI brings. Now, naturally, we veered off a little bit from job search, and naturally that's completely fine. But really taking the respect to read through what it could mean for just not just getting a job, doing better in a job, and how jobs will be in the next 5 years. You might not have the same jobs that are available right now at all because of AI.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah.
What jobs do you think are at threat with the AI models getting better and the inception of AI?
It depends on the responsibilities of the job. So the responsibility of the if you find yourself going into an office and you're doing data entry, your job's gone in 2 years, probably less. If you go into a position right now and you're client facing and you're dealing with humans, a human that's going to buy a service will probably not want you to be an AI. They would want you to still be a human. So they have that element of humanity and actual empathy
That
and
relationship.
a relationship. Exactly. So I think people who are in that space, relationship building, stakeholder communication, I think they're safe for a long time. I think things that can be automated are naturally going to get automated faster. And it just depends on what you're doing for a role right now. The best way for you to think about it is, okay, ask ChatGPT, how would you do my job? This is what I do for a living right now. How would you do it at half the speed? And if you're surprised by that result, I hate to kind of break it to you, your job's gone very soon. And you need to start thinking about ways to get another integrated position with soft skills you might not even be thinking that you have. And you might actually have to start looking for a new job way ahead of time, because you'll find yourself in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, figuring out, oh, my employer is using a software instead of hiring me. That's a tough gig to kind of even think about, right?
I think having a working knowledge of all these AI, a CRM system, like a lot of people use different CRM systems, it only helps. And I think we need to start talking more about this at a university level, at a high school level, where people get more comfortable with it as they're comfortable with Google and other search engines. Basically, because I think some people see it as a big pressure on them. We gotta use AI now.
Yeah.
Damn it. Not a new thing again. I see a 40-year-old throwing her coffee out of stress with it. And my concern is for those people who are not at such an early stage at their career where they can constantly, close that gap. And they are a little bit complacent and their job might be in danger of, being taken over by AI in the next 2-3 years. And they have, they're not as adaptable as a 23-year-old maybe. What would you recommend?
Think about like Linux. Do you remember Linux? Yeah.
Of course.
People went to university for Linux.
Yep.
And then Microsoft came out. And then they didn't have to really use Linux anymore. And they spent 3-4 years in university to learn how to use Linux. Now, again, there are positions out there that still require it and did require it at a time. But then you had like the home computer. Hey, you don't need to go to university. That was how they pitched it before. We can give you a home computer. It's called Microsoft. It's $99.99. And it's in your house, and there's a CD-ROM and all these things. So people that went to university for it, they realized, oh, I've just wasted 4 years to learn about something that, I could easily do at home
Oh my
now.
God, that's
So
so scary.
and by the way, I've kind of like sped that version up. That happened over maybe 5 to 10 years, but
That's what we're going through right now.
right now, yeah. So technological advancements right now can happen within a year. What used to happen in 10 years, in 6 months, in 5 years' time. So that's the scary part. And I think a lot of people that have gone to university that are thinking right now, okay, this AI thing, start paying attention, because the last 4 years of what you've been like learning about
May not be
is going to
relevant
be,
anymore.
well, it may not be relevant, but it also needs to be relevant in a new way now, because you've learned all of it. Okay, you could be a really good prompt engineer from what you've learned with your university to do the job you want to do better and faster. And that new job that you want to do better and faster will be a completely different job that you are even more qualified for. But to get to that position, you need to start thinking really differently. You need to start thinking outside of the box. So if you're looking for a data analyst position, data analyst right now will not be the same job in 6 years' time, in 3 years' time. It won't be the same job as it is today. If you're a stockbroker right now, your job's going to look very different in 3 years. You will still have to speak to clients, so you're safe, because a lot of high net worth clients might want to still deal with a human and not an AI model to make their financial decisions. If you're an architect, I don't know, maybe there's going to be a system that realizes, okay, these buildings don't look that good, these buildings do, let's just make more of these, design them, and here's that to the client.
I think with architecture, it's more like, okay, we take it as a reference point and then make changes to it and see how we can expand on this. But bringing it back to job search, and for people who are getting into the job market, or who have been in the job market for the last 6 months, haven't been able to get interviews, constantly applying for hundreds of jobs every single week. What do you say are the top 3 things they can start doing right now using AI to make progress, get those interviews that would eventually land them a job?
Sure, great question. So what can you do today? Open up ChatGPT, ask it a question. First thing, any question you want. That's step 1, done. You're using AI. And this is for people who are not using AI. Just ask it, hey, how are you? See what it responds. That's step 1. That's if you haven't used it before. Step 2, start figuring out first, think, where do I want to be next week? Do I want more interviews? Yes, that would be a good place to begin. Do I want more interviews in companies that I want to work for? That's another great, even better place to begin. So you might want to upload your CV, and you might want to ask it, how do I get more interviews at these places and these companies? It will give you a basic prompt response. And that's what's going to stop you from actually fully using it to its potential. So you need to understand what a basic response looks like. That won't help. Then the third thing is re-engineering that prompt. Okay, thank you for responding to that question. I'm going to ask you a better question, and you have to start thinking about it. How do I improve my CV to get better responses from companies that I want to work for? I want you to answer back with soft skills, with measurable metrics, with key metrics. So the answer is going to be, you don't know what you don't know. You're going to have to start thinking about how to get that competence, that conscious competence to things, so you can start using it properly. So you have to fail forward. So start using it. That's the main thing. I can't do it in 3 steps. Just the first one. Ask it a question.
I think either that, or I think for a lot of people, job search Power Pack is going to be the solution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shameless plug here, guys. Sorry, but you're going to have to start using it. You can use AI yourself, or you can start using our team with AI. And we have all the questions that you would need to be asked, or that you should be asking, to create a 100-page encyclopedia product that will help you get into the right job.
And can you give me a breakdown of the time someone might go through of doing it by themselves versus how much time would it take with the job search Power Pack?
Endless. There's no specific amount of time. It's just an endless amount of time. Think about someone who's applying for jobs right now. I've spoken to someone yesterday that spent 1 year applying for jobs. I asked them genuine questions. What's the culture fit you're looking for? Don't know. What soft skills do you have? What are they? What's the working style? Because Amazon's getting people back in the office in 2025. How do you think that's going to affect your job search? Are they? I didn't know that. Okay, so someone is clueless about these things. So it's having that conscious competence. People are unconsciously incompetent right now with their job search. So how do you change that? You have to know what questions to ask. If you don't know what questions to ask, you need to find someone who does. And that's what I think our brand really stands for, which we know what questions to ask, and we know where you should be. So if you don't know how to get into the right role right now, we can give you a structure. We can give you a flow. We can see where you're at, where you need to be, and we can just show you the way. And you just have to do it. That's it. That's all you need to do. And once you get to that point, that's it.
I think that's very well said. I think intention, everyone has intention, but direction is what's missing. And that's where we come in. And we take people with high potential who want to go for these higher positions, want to fulfill their dreams by working for these companies, and have no clue how they can use networking, soft cultures, measurable metrics, and transferable skills in order to land them these interviews, network their way through, and get those roles. So, guys, I would highly recommend book a call with Milo, get his advice, talk to us, let us know what are the obstacles for you guys? What are the pitfalls? What do you think is working against you? What do you think is working for you? Because we would love to know more about that and be able to help you in your journey to land you that dream role in your dream company. And with that, I think it's good time we can wrap there. Yeah.
Mic drop moment.
Yeah.
There we go. Link in the description.
And please do comment what are the things that you would like us to discuss in the future episodes, because we are looking to do this for a long time and we want to be able to take input from you guys and then expand on that.
Yeah, and the reason we did this actual episode is because a person I spoke to last week said, hey, cover AI because I have no idea what I'm doing. So this is for you. Hope it helped. And I hope it helps a lot more of you. And like Babab said, put it in the comments and like and subscribe.